One issue of cultural intolerance that I came across was in Hong Kong. I had just joined the university, and after doing a couple of oral presentations in class, I found this group of people who are native English speakers who were making fun of people from other countries. In this very situation, it was some mainland Chinese students, and the native English speakers were making fun of them because they could not speak English properly. And I heard them making fun of them. So I told them, I don't think this is right, because you have to understand that English is not their first language. Most of the times it may be their second or third language. And if they were in a situation where it was their first language, they would be able to speak English as well as you. I was in that same situation a couple of years ago because English happens to be my third language, and we were taught English in a Frenchy way. So if you heard me a couple of years ago, you wouldn't be able to understand what I'm saying right now. So after telling them about this, I decided to set up a club on campus, the same type of club that helped me improve my communication skills. I set up a Toastmasters club on campus, and most of the people who got English as their second or third language joined the club. And this was a long-term solution.
The Dutch believe themselves to be very blunt, and they believe themselves to tell the truth, to be very open. But in fact, that isn't entirely true. So, for example, they have a tradition of Black Peter, Schwarz Peter, and he is a Christmas character who is blacked up. And I, of course, offered a Dutch bluntness about the inappropriateness in 2015 of something called Schwarz Peter, especially in Amsterdam, where we have many community members from Morocco, from the Dutch East Indies, from Suriname, from all over the world. And this, of course, is racist. I mean, of course, to my mind. And this was, I was greeted with outrage, real outrage, even from, Guardian reading equivalent arts colleagues who run arts organisations. So that's interesting. And what I learned from that is I had not correctly read, the psyche of my colleagues there, but I could not have done anything else. Actually, I could not have not expressed those views, and I could not have been flexible about how Schwarz Peter should be part of, an acceptable part of Dutch culture. And one of the things that I have done in response to that is to invite 2 choirs from South Africa, an old coloured choir, people who define themselves as coloured, who speak Afrikaans, and who themselves, although they are culturally diverse, I mean, they are a mix of African and Indian, they black themselves up with black and white on their face. They wear white gloves, and they do a sort of carnival minstrel tradition, which is not a million miles from Schwarz Peter. And the Future, who are young African girls singing in their own language. And the great thing about these 2 choirs is that they each sing their songs, but then, for me, the killer in the concert is they sing together. And that, of course, is the future of South Africa. And that, which comes in my festival in a few weeks' time, I think is my cultural way to respond to, if you like, the confrontation over Schwarz Peter.
When I have encountered somebody being culturally intolerant to me, I have very rarely responded to that for 2 reasons. Firstly, because it doesn't matter to me unless it matters. And what I mean by that is it only matters if it has a direct bearing on whatever is happening around me. If it's somebody else's view that they've expressed, as far as I'm concerned, that's their problem. It only matters to me if it's going to affect my progress in one way or another. And so that's really the main reason why, the first reason why I very rarely respond to it. The second reason I very rarely respond to it is because I have always played a long game. And so an example of this is when I was a very young barrister, a trainee barrister, in fact, a people barrister we call it, I experienced intolerance, probably of the worst kind. The details are irrelevant, but it was pretty shocking to the extent where I had to leave the place that I was in. And I just thought to myself, well, we'll see about this. And fast forward, I don't know, 8, 9 years later, at least one of the people at the hands of whom I received that intolerance came to a place where I was now in charge, and I had to make the decisions about whether or not they were going to enter the place in which I was working. And so I've always got a long game in mind, and very often, if it doesn't directly affect my situation, I'll leave it, because I'll just get on with what I'm doing and I'll remain focused on what I'm doing. The position is quite different if I see somebody else who is being affected by such, and I'm in a position to make things better, then I will speak out. I often encounter this in my legal world, and very often I'm having to represent such, and you see it before you, that the situation is going down a certain road, and you know the reasons why, because of the background of the person or their situation, and you know that if you're representing somebody else in an identical position but with a different background, the result would be quite different, and then you fight like crazy to make that change. And if necessary, you point out to your tribunal the differences and why they need to be aware of them, even if they don't intend to be intolerant in that way. It's always useful to point out that they are, in fact, by their actions, demonstrating that intolerance.